So let's picture the early 1800s. For the most part, America was still the country Thomas Jefferson had dreamed of, a huge republic of independent farmers. But then, in what felt like the blink of an eye, a wave of new tech in transportation, farming, and industry started to wire the nation together and totally reshape it. This incredible economic shift, well, we call it the market revolution.
Everything really kicked off with these little sparks of invention. And this quote, which we often link to Eli Whitney, just nails the theme of the era: unintended consequences. You see, a single machine built to solve one problem could set off this massive chain reaction that nobody, especially not the inventor, could have ever seen coming.
So what you have here is this fundamental tension, this clash of ideas. On one side, you've got the classic Jeffersonian ideal, the self-sufficient farmer. But on the other, a powerful new reality was taking shape, a truly national market, all driven by cash, credit, and commerce. How America got from that old agrarian dream to this new commercial reality, well, that's the story we're going to dig into.
All right, so if you're going to build a national economy, first you've got to connect the country, right? Before all this, America was really just a bunch of isolated regions. Moving anything was slow, it was super expensive, and just plain hard. So step one was to literally build the connections.
And the speed of this transformation was just wild. First, we got better roads, like the Lancaster Turnpike. Then, boom, Robert Fulton's steamboat shows up and basically conquers the rivers, turning them into two-way superhighways. Next, the Erie Canal literally carves a water route out to the west. And just as that canal craze is taking off, railroads arrive, offering even faster transport no matter the weather. It was just this relentless cascade of innovation.
And the impact? It was staggering. I mean, look at this. Before these changes, sending a shipment of goods from Cincinnati to New York was a 7-week journey. 7 weeks. After the canals and steamboats, that time was cut by more than half. This wasn't just a small improvement. It was a total revolution in logistics that made a national market even possible.
The Erie Canal, especially, was a true game changer. I mean, this thing was an engineering marvel that completely shifted the country's economic center of gravity. By linking the Great Lakes to the Atlantic Ocean, it turned New York City into the king of commerce. Suddenly, a farmer way out in Ohio could sell his wheat to the whole world through New York, creating this powerful economic artery between the heartland and the coast. Okay, so now that these connections are in place, a massive opportunity just blew wide open. For farmers in the Old Northwest, what we'd call the Midwest today, life was about to change in a big way. They weren't just farming for their families anymore. They were about to start feeding the entire nation.
So what turned this region into America's breadbasket? Honestly, it was a perfect storm of factors. Corn and wheat were in huge demand back in the growing cities on the East Coast. Plus, the federal government was selling off fertile land for dirt cheap, and state banks were happy to give out loans to buy it. For the first time, farmers could grow a massive surplus and, this is the key part, actually get it to market. And of course, technology was a huge piece of this puzzle. John Deere's steel plow could finally slice right through that tough, dense prairie soil that had been so hard to farm. And at the same time, Cyrus McCormick's mechanical reaper let a single family harvest way more grain than they ever could by hand. These inventions just supercharged every farmer's productivity. All right, so we've got crops and raw materials flowing from the west and south, and we've got a whole country hungry to buy stuff. The conditions were absolutely perfect for an entirely new way of making things, the factory. And hey, look who's back. Eli Whitney. Besides his cotton gin, he pushed a concept that would literally define the modern world: interchangeable parts. Think about it. Before this, every single thing was handmade and unique. If a part of your rifle broke, a skilled craftsman had to make a new one from scratch just to fit. Whitney's idea was to have machines make every single part exactly the same. This wasn't just about easier repairs, it was a whole new way of thinking about manufacturing. This one simple-sounding idea laid the groundwork for all modern mass production. You create identical parts, you standardize how you put them together, and suddenly you shift from a skilled artisan making one thing at a time to an assembly line cranking out goods on a scale nobody had ever seen before. Now, a bunch of other things were stoking this industrial fire. You had Samuel Sleator, who basically memorized the designs for British textile machines and brought the secret to America. New laws made it easier to create corporations and raise a ton of money. The government even helped out with tariffs to protect new industries, and New England, with all its rivers for power and ports for trade, became the nation's manufacturing hotspot. But all these revolutions in transport, farming, and industry, they didn't just change how Americans made money. They fundamentally changed how Americans lived. This economic transformation was a profound social one, too.
An early experiment in this new world was something called the Lowell system. To get enough workers for their huge textile mills, the owners went out and recruited young, unmarried women from farms all over New England. They didn't just offer a paycheck, they offered a whole supervised lifestyle in company dorms. For a lot of these women, it was their very first taste of independence.
But that idealized vision of factory life, yeah, it didn't last. The reality for most workers quickly became, well, pretty grim. We're talking 12-hour days in deafening, dangerous conditions for pay that was barely enough to survive. Child labor was everywhere. Kids as young as 7 were working in these mills. And as more and more immigrants arrived from places like Ireland and Germany, they became the new, easily exploited workforce. So what do you do when you're facing these harsh new realities? You organize. Workers started to band together. Skilled craftsmen whose whole way of life was being threatened by factories formed some of the very first trade unions. They fought for better pay, safer conditions, and one of their biggest goals was cutting that brutal workday down to 10 hours. Okay, so let's pull the lens back one last time. Now we can see how all these separate revolutions in transport, farming, and industry all started to lock together to create one powerful, interconnected economic machine that stretched across the nation and even the globe.
And at the very heart of this new global economy was one commodity: cotton. Now, the cotton gin made it incredibly profitable, but it was the horrific institution of slavery that produced it. The whole system was tragically interconnected. Enslaved people on southern plantations grew the cotton. That cotton was then shipped to mills in New England and Great Britain. Northern banks financed the whole thing, while Midwestern farms grew the food that fed everyone in the plantation system. It was this complex, interlocking machine built on profit and resting on a foundation of human bondage.
Just when you thought this new economy couldn't get any faster, another invention showed up to accelerate it even more. In 1844, Samuel F.B. Morse showed off the telegraph. All of a sudden, information could move not at the speed of a horse, but at the speed of electricity.
I mean, really think about that for a second. For all of human history, communication was limited by how fast you could physically travel. The telegraph just shattered that barrier. A general could command an army. A banker could close a deal. A reporter could file a story. All of it in minutes, not weeks. This innovation just snapped the new American economy together in a way that was almost unimaginable before. So there's no doubt about it. The market revolution forged a modern, dynamic, and wealthy nation. It connected people, it spurred innovation, and it created immense opportunity. But this leaves us with a really crucial question to think about. For whom was this connected America actually built? Who truly got to enjoy the benefits of this transformation, and who, from the factory worker in Lowell to the enslaved person in Mississippi, ended up paying the ultimate price?